Okay, I'd like to call to order the Dartmouth Conservation Commission meeting for Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. By reason of the governor's signing of an extension for hybrid remote meeting options to municipalities on March 29, 2023, we're able to conduct this meeting remotely until March 31, 2025. Public who attends is more than welcome to participate. Obviously, we would like you to either use the raise your hand feature or wave your hand so you can be recognized and then unmuted. I'd ask everyone who's not speaking to please keep their microphones muted so that we don't have the meeting interrupted with background noises. That being said, we're going to move on to our administrative items first, and the first is the approval of the minutes of August 8, 2023.
So moved.
We have a seconded motion. Roll call vote. Richard?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Nat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That motion passes unanimously. The second administrative item is the approval of the field trip reports of August 22, 2023. Have a
So
motion.
moved.
Have a
Second.
motion. Seconded. Roll call vote. Richard?
Yeah.
Joe rather?
Yes.
Nat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That motion passes unanimously. The third administrative item is to receive the minutes of August 22, 2023. A motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded motion. Roll call vote. Richard?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Nat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That motion passes unanimously. We're now moving on to our field trip reports. And the first is a request for a certificate of compliance, DEP file 15-2011 from Richard Rayum for the construction of a seawall at map 87 lots 1 and 2. It's at 238 Little River Road. Mark, I'd like to hear staff's comments on this request.
Yes, this is the residence that is to the south of Little River Road on the east shore of Little River. It's the old Robert Desmond house, for those who remember Robert Desmond. They petitioned the commission to construct a seawall along the shoreline. They have done so. It appears to be in conformance with the plan of record, and we are recommending a complete certificate of compliance in this matter.
Thank you, Mark. Any commissioners have any questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a vote for the issuance of a complete certificate of compliance.
So moved.
We have a second to that motion.
Second.
Seconded motion. Roll call vote. Richard?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Nat?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That motion passes unanimously. The second field trip report is a request for a partial certificate of compliance on DEP file 15-0664 from Jane and Mark Lampert for the construction of the subdivision roads and appurtenances by Kachina Realty. It's on lot 51, Rockadundy Road. Mark, I'd entertain now staff's comments regarding this request.
Yeah, this one's a little complicated, so let me walk you through it real quickly. This is the subdivision, White Alder Way, to the south of Rockadundy Road. An order of conditions was issued under file number 15-0664 for the subdivision. It was never it was appealed to the state. The state issued a superseding order of conditions on the state portion of that. Subsequent to that state issuing a superseding order, the commission at that time had to amend the order under the bylaw. What you are hearing is a request for a partial certificate of compliance bylaw amendment to the order of conditions Okay, and again, this is for the
Sorry,
subdivision work. This has nothing to do with any work on the lot itself. Having said that, the subdivision has been built pretty much in conformity with the plan of record at the time. And staff is recommending a partial certificate of compliance for Jane and Mark Lambert to free up their lot, which is 4 White Alder Way, which we will be discussing in the next field trip report, a separate COC request, to free them from of the subdivision order of conditions.
So this is specifically for lot 51, is that correct?
This is for the lot 51. This is for the entirety.
Oh, this one's for the entirety?
This is for the entirety, yes. Their lot is lot 51-19, which we will be talking about later.
All right. So I'll entertain a motion for a partial certificate of compliance.
So moved.
Do you have a second on that?
Second.
You have a seconded motion. Roll call vote. Richard,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. That motion passes unanimously. We're now going to the third field trip report, which, as Mark alluded to, is on DEP file 15-1010 from Jane and Mark Lampert for the construction of an SFH and appurtenances on map 25, which is lot 51-19. It's otherwise known as 4 White Alder Way. Mark, staff's recommendation on this request.
Yes, this is on an order that was issued to Frederick Satkin, who I developed the lot. The Lamperts purchased the lot sometime later. The lot has been built out in full conformity with the plan of record, and staff is recommending a complete COC for map 25, lot 51-19. This is on both the bylaw and the Wetlands Protection Act. There was no appeal of either jurisdiction. Therefore, we're recommending a complete COC for file 15-1010.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion from the commissioners on file 15-1010 for the issuance of a complete certificate of compliance for map 25, lot 51-19. That's from the bylaw and the WPA.
So
Both.
moved.
Second.
Seconded motion, roll call vote. Richard,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. That motion passes unanimously. Our fourth field trip report is a request for determination of applicability from Christopher Fortier for the construction of a barn addition and a pool barn in the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. It's on land described as map 6, lots 25 and 26. It's at 106 Barney's Joy Road. Mark, staff's recommendation on this request.
Yes, the parcel in question is held in a conservation restriction with the trustees of the reservation. Having reviewed the CR, the work that is proposed herein is in full conformity with the CR. It is in the agriculturally developed portions of the lot. They fall within buffer zone to BVW. Having said that, the shelter, which is closer to the BVW, is really a de minimis use. The barn is an extension in addition to the pre-existing barn area, and it's going to be in an area that's used for equipment storage and vehicle parking. So having said all that, staff is recommending a -3 determination for this with no additional conditions.
Very good, thank you. Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion for a -3 determination with no additional conditions.
So moved.
Second.
We have a seconded motion. Richard,
Yes.
Joe. Joe,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. That motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just interject, I see Mr. Fortier's here. Mr. Fortier, I recommended and the commission voted negative determination. That's actually good for you. Negative is positive in this case for you. So that is what you and your consultant were looking for.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good luck.
Our fifth item is a request for determination of applicability from Jamie Bissonette for Pamela Lunny for a Title V septic system upgrade and grading within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. It's map 45, lot 44, otherwise known as 235 Chase Road. Mark, staff's recommendation on this request.
This is a septic system repair and upgrade in a buffer zone to a BVW. It's in an appropriate location. There's really no other place to really put it to be serviceable. So staff is recommending a -3 with our standard erosion control device condition.
Thank you. Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion for the issuance of a -3 determination with the standard erosion control device conditions.
So moved.
Second.
The seconded motion. Richard,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. That motion passes unanimously. We're moving on to the sixth field trip report. It's a request for determination of applicability from Paul and Cheryl Fournier for the demolition of an existing detached shed and build a house addition in its place in the buffer zone to a bank on land described as map 171, lot 49, otherwise known as 51 Sherbrooke Road. Mark, what's staff's recommendation on this request?
We have to do a little bit of a rewind on this. This was an RDA that was applied for a little more than 3 years ago, like probably about 3.5 years ago. It was granted with a -3. The applicant then and the applicant now, they're the same applicant, did not act on the 3-year period. RDA or determinations cannot be extended, so the determination expired. Having said that, what they're proposing here is the exact same project, the exact same footprint, in the exact same location that was approved by the commission some 3.5 years ago. Having said that, the staff is recommending to issue a -3 again for the work at this particular parcel.
And Mark, there are no changes to the
There's no changes whatsoever. They did do an upgraded plan. But the upgraded plan is the exact same footprint. So again, it's a -3, and I should say with the standard ECD condition, I did not include that in my first recommendation on this. But the -3 with a standard ECD condition.
Okay, so I'll entertain commissioners a motion to issue a -3 determination with the standard ECD conditions.
So moved.
Second.
The seconded motion. Richard,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. That motion passes unanimously. Our final field trip report this evening, which is number 7, is a request for determination of applicability from Richard Rayum to approve a portion of delineated bordering vegetated wetland in conjunction with the construction of a 30-foot by 21-foot building and deck on helical piles in the riverfront area and a portion of the 100-foot buffer zone to the BVW on land described as map 79, lot 34, It's otherwise known as 291 Flag Swamp Road. Mark, staff's recommendation on this request.
Yes, this is an RDA that was presented to us to approve a wetland line. Site plan does have a building on it. The building is on developed lawn. It infringes on the buffer zone by maybe 1.5 feet in one location, based on the wetlands that have been delineated in the field. We were asked to verify that line through the request for determination process. We have in fact approved portions of 3 lines. I should say, this is the house that is located to the north of the large cranberry bogs on Flag Swamp Road. If you look at the site plan, the wetlands to the south of the house are in fact the former cranberry bogs. Having said all that, the staff is recommending approval of those portions of the wetland lines identified as wetland A3 through A10. Second line, B1 through B10. And a third line, wetland D1 through D8, according to the plan prepared by Prime Engineering dated August 24th, 2023.
So I want to make sure I heard the recommendation correctly. It's going to be a negative determination.
No, excuse me, it's a positive determination.
Positive determination.
It's a positive 2A, which
Yep.
is approval of a wetland line as delineated in the field.
All right, but you said it's only as to the certain lines.
We did not look at the entire delineation. We only looked at those areas in and around the proximity of the land use, the proposed land use.
Okay, so it's going to be a positive 2A determination for the lines 8-3 through 8-10, B-1 through B-10, and D-1 through D-8 on the plan presented by Prime Engineering dated August 24, 2023. So do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
The seconded motion. Richard,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well, so that motion passes unanimously. We're now moving on to our public hearings, and the first public hearing is a continued public hearing on DEP file 15-2659 on the notice of intent from Potter Street Solar LLC for a single-family dwelling and a ground-mounted solar panel array on the rear portion of the lot within bordering land subject to flooding and the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. It's on land described as map 138, lot 144. It's on Potter Street. I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading.
So moved.
Second.
The seconded motion. Richard,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. That motion passes unanimously. Mark, if I recall correctly, during the presentation at our last meeting, I believe the applicant said they were not going to build single-family dwelling. This was going to be solely for the solar array. Is that correct?
That's what they're saying, yes.
The application hasn't been amended to
No.
conform with the presentation? Okay. Is anyone here on behalf of the applicant?
Well, they're not here. I sent an email. They have requested a continuance to the October 3rd meeting. They submitted, and the rationale for that is this. They submitted revised drainage calculations to our peer review consultant. Our peer review consultant needs an additional $1,000 because he's expended all of the $3,500 on previous reviews of the same project. And our peer review consultant is right now enjoying a 2-week vacation on the Azores. So he will not be back until September 18th. So there would be no way that he could prepare a review and a report to this commission by our September 19th meeting, which was the original requested date. I informed the applicant of that and they conceded that they can't do much until the 3rd. So they sent an email to that effect. And so that is what the continuance is requested for.
Personally, I think under those circumstances, and I know we expressed exasperation with them as to the number of continuances on this matter, but that is a reasonable request because our peer review can't be completed for this evening's meeting for sure, but also for the next meeting in September. I might make a recommendation though, Mark, before we take a vote, and that is they be asked to amend their application to remove the single-family dwelling component so it complies with their request. And I was also curious if they're aware of Mass DEP's requests.
Let me go take that step since you raised the question. I shared with the commissioners and the applicants correspondences between myself, forwarding public information documents, public record documents, to the Solid Waste Division and the Bureau of Waste Cleanup, questioning them, and I think I alluded to this at our last meeting during a discussion, to get some guidance and received response from the Division of Solid Waste. And not surprising to me, they completely concurred with my concerns and the concerns that I've expressed to you and that you have expressed to the applicant. I don't know, I have not heard any kind of response from the applicant on that. I forwarded that information to them today as I did to you. I also forwarded that information to our peer reviewer because all of this information is part and parcel to the incomplete nature of the application right now. I certainly expect to hear from the applicant at some point in the not too distant future. I also believe that the protracted nature of this particular filing, should it continue to go forward, it should be re-advertised and abutters re-notified. There is no way in this earth that any abutter is aware of the innumerable continuances and the information that has not been provided, that has been asked for, and the like. To me, in my mind, and I had a meeting with the applicant and their representatives last week, and I told them basically in 9 months they have not moved the arrow, in my opinion, of this project. And I have nothing against the outcome, the solar field. That's not the issue. It's the solar field, where it's going, what it is, and what is the environmental risk to the wetlands and to the neighborhood. We are dealing with a site that is certainly not secured, clearly not authorized by DEP, and may in fact be an illegal dump site. And to put a Band-Aid over it by putting solar panels on it isn't going to solve the problem. So I think that a continuance is certainly in order to October 3rd, based on the fact that our drainage consultant cannot provide a review. I mean, you know, as a practical matter. And but where it goes from here, I think they have a fair amount of work to do to get me to recommend to you an approval. Right now, I cannot do that, and I will not do that. And I made that abundantly clear to them. And that is, again, this is one of those things where we've got 3 files and the issues are all the same. I really don't want to repeat this for the next 2 filings, but their request is the same and my rationale for granting the continuance is the same.
I appreciate that, Mark, and I think in the following 2 public hearings, I'll open them, the commissioners can vote, but we're not going to hear the same explanation that we just did. I think that what we just heard being applicable to all three, we need to hear it once, and we have. So that being said, we have a request from the applicant to continue the public hearing until October 3, 2023. I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
Move.
Second.
We have a seconded motion. Richard,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. That motion passes unanimously. We're now moving to the second and related public hearing. It's on continued public hearing DEP file 15-2660 on the notice of intent from Potter Street Solar LLC for a single-family dwelling and a ground-mounted solar panel array on the rear portion of the lot within bordering land subject to flooding and the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands. It's on map 138, slot 144-1. It's on Potter Street. I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading.
So moved.
Second.
We have a seconded motion. Richard,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. That motion passes unanimously. Again, as we did for the prior, we are asked to continue this until October 3rd, 2023 at 7 p.m. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
We have a seconded motion. Richard,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. That motion passes unanimously. The third public hearing is also related to the first two. It's a continued public hearing, DEP file 15-2658. It's on the notice of intent from Potter Street Solar LLC, proposing a ground-mounted solar panel array on the rear portion of the lot within bordering land subject to flooding and the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands. It's on land described as map 138, lot 144-2. It's otherwise known as Potter Street. I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading.
So moved.
Second.
We have a seconded motion. Richard,
Yes. Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Jim, and I am a yes as well. That motion passes unanimously. Again, as with the prior two, the applicant has requested a continuance until Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023 at 7 p.m. A
So
motion,
moved.
we have a motion. We have a second on the motion.
Second.
We have a second on the motion. Richard,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. That motion passes unanimously. We're now moving on to public hearing number 4. And at this public hearing, I would like, Nat, if you would take control of the meeting. I have to recuse myself.
Sure. Thanks, Mike.
So the fourth public hearing is for DEP file number 15-2696 on the notice of intent from Randy Green for the construction of a single-family home shed and access and to replicate wetlands in the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland and within land subject to coastal storm flowage on land described as map 113, lot 54-11 or Elm Street. And a motion to waive the reading.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got the motion seconded. Roll call vote. Richard,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. That passes unanimously. Do we have anybody on behalf of the applicant this evening?
Yes, Mr. Chair, acting chair. My name is Sean Leach from Northeast Engineers, representing Randy Green for a lot, plat 113, lot 54-1. This is a lot that's located northeast of Elm Street. I'm going to share my screen right now, hopefully.
Please. Thank you.
And can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so this is a lot that has some history to it. About 7 years ago, it was just an order conditions to put a driveway across an existing wetlands. The wetlands existing right here. The driveway was constructed. As part of the order of conditions, there was a wetlands replication that was required. That wetlands replication was northeast corner of the lot. That was not done. So subsequently, Mr. Green, who is moving forward with this lot, has obtained a partial certificate of compliance for the crossing and the work done for the existing driveway, which will have to be somewhat improved because it's been quite a few years since anything's been done on it. And he wishes to also build a house in the upland portion of the lot. This is the recent wetlands flag that was done by Dave Pichette. We're holding that line. The previous line was somewhat more conservative, or excuse me, showing less wetlands. What we're planning on doing is moving the replication area, which was consisted to be just northeast of the house or north of the house, to a point where it runs against the wetlands to the south of the house. It would be the same square footage and the same number of plants that were approved on the original order condition, but we feel that this wetlands with some grading will be much more successful because at the lower end it will stay wet longer. Since this water condition was done originally, there were several houses and several things done on adjacent lots. So we feel this would be a more appropriate place and a better place for success for the wetlands replication. We plan on doing a pretty conservative single family home with a driveway and a turn area with a small shed over here. This house requires some grading to keep it drainage away from the house itself. It is located in an AE 18 zone, so we're keeping the house above the AE zone. And because it is a coastal zone, there's no compensatory storm storage required. So we feel that this is a pretty good use of this lot, and we want to move forward with the replication area as soon as possible, as the end of the year is fast approaching.
Thank you. Martin, get your comments next, please.
Sure. I think Sean did a pretty decent job of summarizing. But there are a couple of things I think that need to be pointed out. First of all, I have been involved with this lot for more than 30 years. I'm not proud to say that, but it's true. And so I'm pretty aware of what has transpired in the distant past and the more recent past. If this commission would recall, we issued a partial certificate of compliance back in the spring for the road work, the culvert work. Sean, could you just show again where the culverts are related to this driveway?
Okay, so there are 3 culverts right in here.
Yeah, those have been in place for years, and they still exist, and you know they're in decent shape. They're sort of in the middle of the woods right now. But that driveway alignment was pretty much approved a long time ago, and has been part of the plan, and is really the only way that they can access the rear portion of the property, given the lot configuration. We issued a partial for those 3 culverts. What hadn't occurred was the replication area, and the replication area has been lost in the shuffle along the way. This is the 3rd location of replication. There were 2 previous that were never constructed. So as part of that partial certificate of compliance, we required that a notice of intent be filed that would include the lot development, the house, and would include the replication area. And as part of that discussion, I had indicated to the applicants, the Greens, that before any work is done on land development, the replication area has to be put in place and approved by conservation staff. Time has ticked away over the summer, and we're now pushing up against the back end of the growing season. They still want to proceed, and so they still have maybe 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, depending on what kind of fall we have, to get this thing in and set and get the plants to acclimate to the natural world before, you know, heavy weather and the cold set in. So the order of conditions that I am going to recommend will stipulate that this replication work has to go in before they move 1 ounce of dirt for the house or the turnaround or the improved driveway. And I realize they are going to need to do some work to get into the replication area. It is fairly thick to get back there. So they're going to have to do some cutting, which will be cutting that they would have done for the development of the house. I understand that, but nonetheless, I want the replication in and at least signed off from the standpoint that it was planted correctly prior to any home development. Home is, this is Ricketson's point. They have their homeowners association has requirements on size. They really can't make this house a whole lot smaller than it is because of the rules and regs of the subdivision there. Having said all that, staff is prepared to recommend the issuance of a standard order of conditions with our standard replication conditions. I want to cite 2 specifically. And that would be condition 41C. All planting and restoration work shall be completed by October 27th, 2023, as specified in this order. Upon completion of the planting and restoration work, a conservation agent shall be notified so that an inspection to approve said work can be made prior to the start of any other land development approved in this order and prior to the close of the growing season. I also stipulate in condition 41E, the Conservation Commission shall require the minimum woody planting specifications to include all individual tree specimens as proposed with a trunk DBH of no less than 1 inch where applicable, and all shrubs of a size no less than 3 to 5 gallon pots or balls as proposed and when applicable, as opposed to any size specifications presented on the plan of record. The reason I read that is pretty standard in all of our conditions. We are now at the end of the growing season. I'm going to say that most nurseries are pretty much bought out. We're going to hold to that condition. Okay, those specs must be followed. This restoration has been put off way too long. When you're talking 20, 25 years, that's way too long. We want this done and we want it done right. And also under this program, under 41H, I stipulate, as part of the restoration program, the commission shall require the clearing and ongoing maintenance of the existing driveway culverts to meet their proper flow capacities. At this point, those culverts have not been maintained. They've filled in. They are not fully functional. We need those fully functional water communication across the driveway. So standard order of conditions with the standard restoration conditions with those 3 amended items in the restoration conditions. And that's as per the plan dated August 16th, 2023.
Thank you, Mark. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Okay. Do any members of the audience have any questions? Let me just, Sean, would you mind stopping your share screen just so I can see the full continue here? Thank you. Okay. I don't see any questions. Therefore, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Thank you. Okay, roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, which means the motion passes unanimously. The public hearing is now closed. I will now entertain a motion for a standard order of conditions with the standard replication conditions, specifically, specifically calling out 41C, 41E, and 41H with the additional commentary that Mr. Garrett had provided.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. The motion's been seconded. Roll call vote. Joe,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You as well.
And like the bad penny, I'm back. So we're now moving on, and good job there, Nat. We're moving on to the fifth public hearing, which is a public hearing on DEP file 15-2698. It's on the notice of intent from Benjamin Graham for the construction of an addition and small porch onto an existing SFH within land subject to coastal storm flowage on land described as map 97 lot 18, otherwise known as 3 Pennakees Lane. I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading.
So moved.
Second.
We have a seconded motion. Richard,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. That motion passes unanimously. On behalf of the applicant who is here this evening.
Good evening. My name is Chris Gilbert from Frontline Corp Engineering. I'm representing the applicant.
Good evening.
Is it all right if I share my screen?
It is fine.
Okay, this is 3 Pennakees Lane. It's a single-family dwelling with a septic system. And then there's a gravel driveway on the lot. It's on the easterly side of Pennakees Lane. For reference, north is to the left on the plan. This lot, the reason we're here today is this lot is located within a flood zone. If you look closely, the zone AE elevation 18 is just to the north of the northerly line of the lot, putting the entire lot within the coastal flood zone. The applicant is here today proposing a small addition off the rear of the dwelling. It's about 10 feet wide by 28 feet long. They'll also be removing their landing on the north side of their house and proposing a small porch. The existing finished floor elevation on the dwelling is 18.5, so just above that 18 flood zone elevation. The proposed addition will be at that same elevation with proposed flood vents on it. There will be erosion control on the down gradient side of all construction. They will have to reroute electric lines, one that runs to the shed. There's also an electric line that runs to the generator on the north side of the house, but that may be able to stay in place depending on where the footings land there. Fairly straightforward, and we're here requesting approval and an order of conditions.
Does that conclude your presentation, Chris?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mark, I would now entertain staff's comments on this request.
Well, I think Chris left out the best part of his presentation. And it really has little to do with the actual proposal, except that, and I applaud Chris for this, the floodplain that he shows on this map is inconsistent with the floodplain that the FEMA maps show. The FEMA maps show the flood zone to the south of the lot, the southern portion of the lot. And I questioned Chris. I said, Chris, what's going on here? Am I reading the plan wrong? And he said, no. He said, and he showed me some survey data and he showed me some elevations. And in fact, the elevations are consistent with the line that he shows. So to Chris's credit, a very proactive approach to a FEMA line that is true to the ground if the FEMA elevations are correct, and not to some GIS shading that somebody put in. So, I think that's important to note if anybody were to look or is familiar with this lot and the floodplain in that area, which floodplain's a little funky on a good day, but, nonetheless, moving ahead, in that it is inland subject to coastal storm flowage by ground truthing. The work is really very minimal. There is no real performance standard for land subject to coastal storm flowage. This is the work is pretty much within the perimeter of the home. There is a wall to the south, a wall to the west. The northern wall is flush with the existing northern wall, and there's a new eastern wall set 10 feet out into a lawn patio area. So from a wetlands perspective, there is really no impact, and the applicant is proposing to put in flood vents, below the base flood elevations, so that water can move in and out without flooding or causing any damage to the new structure. So having said all that, staff is recommending a standard order of conditions as per the plan, which is dated July 5th, 2023.
Thank you, Mark. Do any commissioners have any questions? I don't see any. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to be heard on this application? I don't see any. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have a seconded motion. Roll call vote. Richard,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I am a yes. That motion passes unanimously. Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion for the issuance of a standard order of conditions on the plan submitted July 5, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
We have a seconded motion. Roll call vote. Richard,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Excuse me. So we're moving on to our sixth and final public hearing. It's a public hearing on DEP file 15-2697 on the notice of intent from Rockland Farm Lane LLC for the construction of a new SFH driveway, in-ground pool, and appurtenances within bordering vegetated wetlands. The 100-foot buffer zone to BVW and within land subject to coastal storm flowage. The land is described as map 118, lot 132, and it is on Rockland Street. I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading.
So moved.
Second.
We have a seconded motion. Roll call vote. Richard,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well, so that motion passes unanimously. If I'm not mistaken, there was a request for a continuance by the applicant. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, there's a request for continuance to September 19th. If the commission will indulge me for a couple seconds here. When this filing came in, I reviewed it and I prepared an email to the applicant's agent indicating that I thought that this was a rather aggressive, large single-family development in a very sensitive portion of a large lot. Understanding full well that it's the preferential location for development, given that it's a waterfront lot. But under our standards for review, if impacts are avoidable or can be minimized, they should be. And where they can't be, they need to be mitigated. This particular project had ancillary uses that pushed the envelope of impacts to bordering vegetated wetlands to near the 5,000 square foot threshold, within 30 square feet of that. And when you get less than 50 square feet, it's arguably it could be 5,000, it could be 4,950. You never really are totally sure. And it was for an ancillary use, a pool use down near the beach. Certainly a nice place to put a pool, but certainly avoidable in my book. Anyway, also there is a retaining wall, a significant retaining wall in a velocity zone, a vertical wall. And there was no design specification for this wall. It was just a wall. We require structural engineering to review docks. We should be asking for that level of design on a seawall in a V zone where the base flood elevation is 20 feet. Having said all that, I indicated to the applicant and their agents that I didn't think that this particular proposal had met those standards. We ended up meeting in the office, a very cordial meeting, and I expressed my opinions in the memo again. And they agreed to go back and look at some alternative designs in an effort to reduce the impacts to the BVWs. And that's where we are right now. And they did indicate that they would get a structural engineer to design a wall that is approvable in a vertical wall that's approvable in the velocity zones for coastal floodplain. So those are the reasons why they've asked for continuance, and I think it's a reasonable request.
Can they get all that done by the next meeting?
I don't know that, but they asked for the 19th, so it's a lot of work. My guess is no, but you know, that was the date they gave us, so we'll see what comes out of it.
Right. Well, they asked for that date. So commissioners, we have a request. You've heard the explanation as to why. We've had a request from the applicant to continue tonight's meeting until Tuesday, September 19, 2023 at 7 p.m. I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded motion. Richard,
Yeah.
Joe,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. So that motion passes unanimously. We're now moving on to our items for discussion. The first would be bills. Do we have any, Mark?
None.
That's easy. And then the bylaw follow-up discussion. I just saw the email exchange between you and Brian Cruz. So you might want to explain to the commissioners who may not have been on that.
I forwarded to each of you an email that I got rather late today. Really wasn't exchange. It was basically Brian telling me what the situation was. He has not had a chance to completely evaluate the comments that we sent to him from the workshop. And he was under the impression that there would be another meeting, our meeting of the 19th, prior to the close of the warrant. The select board, which was scheduled, the close of the warrant was scheduled for September 25th. The select board decided to close the warrant on the 18th of September, the day before our meeting. So that really takes any kind of discussion for a fall town meeting out of the picture based on our scheduled meetings. What Brian has suggested is one of two things. If we are interested in getting this on the fall town meeting warrant, then we're probably going to need to have a meeting with him next week to insert an additional meeting to have that discussion. The second is don't have the meeting and push it off to the spring.
Well, what about the third thing, Mark? I mean, I'm not in favor of the first or the second, okay?
I don't know, what is the third? Tell me what the third is.
Third is this, he could, in writing, tell us what his comments are, and we can decide if we want to do it or not. As simple as that. I mean, if we have a joint meeting with him, then it goes back and gets rewritten, then he has to review it again. There's no time. There's no time. We'd have to have 2 meetings in the same week in order for that to occur, and he'd have to turn it around in a day, which hasn't happened so far. So give us your comments. and we'll decide whether we want to change it or not. And if we don't, we'll see what happens. I mean, I think if we wait till the next town meeting, what was the point? You know, we have these issues which we wanted to address. You know, I don't know. I'm feeling pretty.
Okay. From my standpoint, if I could, and that third alternative, like I said, this came to me at the end of the day. I never even considered it. It certainly sounds bad to me. No, from my standpoint, pushing it off another town meeting. To me, it's then, why do we bother doing it? I mean, we've been at this for nearly a year now. And, you know, we're pretty close. Why can't we close this? You know, and move on, because, we should be able to do that. How we do that, it's certainly up to you. I don't care.
Well, I mean, I just looked at all the effort that was made to try to get this over the finish line for spring meeting. We've been at it for a while, as you said. We've gone through a few iterations of it. I understand everyone's busy, but having another meeting with town council isn't going to get us ready for that warrant deadline. If the warrant deadline is the 18th, we meet this week with him, and then we do our changes and we get it to him, and it doesn't get turned around in time. We're right where we are tonight.
Well,
You know, and so I'd say give us your comments this week and we'll vote on it. We can have a special meeting just to vote on that, period. No more going through it line by line or anything of that sort, and then present it to town meeting and see where the chips fall, because quite frankly, it's asking a lot of volunteers to give up so much time and then to have basically it not being treated with the urgency that we treated it with, at least towards the end. Okay. And so it's sort of frustrating, to be candid with you. Because, you know, we all could have done something better that evening if we knew it was going to be put off for another 6 months. But we didn't. We made a commitment to the town. I think the town has to make a commitment to us now. Just vote it up or down. I don't really care, but vote it. We're not going to keep tweaking and toying with it and get it pushed off for another 6 months. I mean, this is Byzantine. We're not, you know, we have to be able to act in a more quick fashion than this, which is exactly why I wanted most everything in, you know, not in the bylaws, because this just is a nightmare. And if we're going to be trying to streamline the processes and make it clear to everybody, okay. I mean, if the town doesn't want that, they don't want it. We do have a bylaw. So it's not as if they vote it down, we have nothing. We have the old bylaw we think has some issues. That's what the town wants. They can have it.
Mike, I agree with you. Let's put this thing, get it done, get it over with and put it to bed.
It would be helpful to know like how many comments Brian might have. Like if he's got like a litany of things that he wants to address, I mean, that'd be unfortunate. But if it's just like a handful of things and he wants to, you know, discuss it in a meeting with us really quick, and then we can vote on it same time, same place, then I guess I could be okay with that. But I guess in general, I share the opinions of Mike and Richard that let's just get this to town. Let's get this to town meeting.
I understand that, you know, they've been slammed and this was probably not front burner. Okay. But yeah, I understand. And Nat, I agree with you. What are your comments? Put them in writing to us, I think, before we have a meeting, because when he was here for that one meeting, we got bollocksed up on one issue for close to an hour and didn't really accomplish much. But I just want to know, is this legal? Isn't this legal? Did we say something which is contradictory? Did we say something which is redundant? Okay, let us know. But, you know, this has been gone through fairly carefully. And the iteration that we approved during the workshop incorporated a lot of his changes, a lot of his suggested language. So unless that was incomplete and we didn't have every one of his issues, I can't imagine what else is out there. You know, and if he says, well, I've thought about it, and I think that still needs to be changed, it's like, well, you know, we're now up against it in terms of getting this thing before town meeting. I want it before this town meeting. I don't think it's appropriate for it to be kicked around for another 6 months for no good reason. If it gets voted down, it gets voted down. You know, I think the issue here, though, is whether or not the town meeting agrees with us that the bylaws need to be amended to conform with the current desires of the town for operational purposes and to clear up some definitions. If the town is in agreement with that, I don't think it's going to be a problem whether it's precisely what town council wants. Now, he may say, I wanted to keep reviewing it. Well, okay, but to what end? What did we miss? We didn't disregard any comments that were of substance. That's my view, okay? So I think we tried really hard to incorporate those concerns which mattered, and thought we did a pretty credible job there. But if there's something which is contradictory, if there's something which is duplicative and maybe said differently, but duplicative, let's cross it out. Just send it back to us with those few edits and we'll edit it. Vote on it and get it before town meeting. If it's a complete rewrite again, get it before town meeting and let town council say, I didn't get to rewrite it for the second time. I don't know if that'll go over too well with town meeting members. I know if I were one, I wouldn't be too happy with that. I mean, if we were all getting paid, this would be the most expensive bylaw probably in the history of man.
Let me ask this, because we can go on this for an hour. And, is everybody in agreement with what Mike says?
Absolutely.
Did I hear unanimity there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, okay, so we have unanimity. Mike, would you please send me an email expressing exactly what you stated, because I didn't write it down and I don't want to start, you know, guessing at what you said. Just send it to me and I'll get it to Brian.
Okay.
I'll gussy it up a little bit, you know, with, you
Don't
know,
worry.
and discuss this, blah, 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 and this is what they came up with.
Yep, I'm happy to write the email.
Okay, that would be great. And with that, I'll get it to him, you know, as soon as I get it, I'll turn it right around.
And so that's the bylaw. Now you want to go into enforcement, Mark?
Yeah, and this isn't gonna take long. As you recall, we voted to send that to, council, which we did. And, in between communications with council, their wetland consultant did write a report, an as-built report, which I don't know if I totally agree with. There are certainly some discrepancies between their opinion and mine. Instead of going around and around and around and taking this to court, I suggested and they agreed. I am meeting with their consultant tomorrow on site with the plan of record, and I'm gonna say, show me where this was complied with. I have certain areas that I don't think were complied with. And hopefully I'll have some information. I've asked Brian to stand down until this meeting took place. I thought this meeting was a good idea. So that's where we stand on that. So, just to bring you up to speed on that. Then, Francis update, you recall the Francis, issue over on Fisher Road. We had, pretty much told town council to move forward on that. And as we were saying that, I got a email from their wetland consultants indicating that he had finished up the field work. I said, well, that's great, but what'd you find? So we kind of went back and forth, and I basically told him, I said, look, I said, I need a detailed report. I know you can't get it to me today, but give me a summary. So what he has indicated to me is that, in fact, he has found wetlands that were filled out there. Hasn't disclosed how much, hasn't disclosed where, but certainly is in agreement with all the contentions made over the years that wetlands were impacted and there needs to be some sort of reclamation, restoration, whatever you want to call it. To what end, I don't know, but the important thing is that he was out there. He does have information. I shared that with Brian, and Brian indicated to me, and I forwarded it to the consultant, that we need something within 2 weeks, detailed report, figure it out. So that's where we stand on Francis.
Okay, I don't have anything more for the meeting. Mark, I don't know if you do.
I do not.
Okay, I see Linda is coming on. You can unmute yourself, Linda, I think.
Great, thank you. I'm so sorry. I tuned in just a few minutes late to catch number 7 under the field trip reports. That was the RDA for 291 Flag Swamp Road. And I just was curious if you could just tell me where that landed.
Yeah, that was a -3 determination with standard erosion control device conditions, I believe.
Oh, number 7, 290 Flag Swamp Road, right, Linda?
Correct.
No,
Oh,
that
that was the approval, that was the approval of the wetlands line,
yeah, that was a
We approved it.
positive determination.
positive
2A.
determination. And we had approved the wetlands line for flags 8-3 through 8-10, B-1 through B-10, and D1 through D8 on the E24-23 plan.
So they haven't submitted their proposal for the building and the,
They show a building on the plan,
oh, okay,
but that's not what they asked for. I mean, they complicated the filing.
okay,
I don't think they were sure. They asked us to verify a wetland line.
okay,
That's us, and that's what we did.
okay,
Long conversation with the applicant's agent, Mr. Rayone, today. I told him, I said, Rich, you've asked us to approve a line. You've put a building on the plan. There are some questions about that building. Other departments, they really don't have wetland implications. They're more, development implications and use implications. If those prove to be problematic, you may have to come back to us, with, a revised request. In addition to the wetlands line, the wetland line's fine. The wetland line was accurately done. That's all we ruled on tonight. We did not rule on the building.
okay, great. Thank you very much. If I email you, Mark, tomorrow, is it possible to share the plans with me, just showing where that building is?
Sure. Sure.
Okay, great. Would be. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Sorry I was late. Have a good night.
Right.
So, like I said, I don't have anything further. Mark doesn't. So at this juncture, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mike, just one thing. I will not be present at the next meeting,
Okay.
Okay.
That would be on the 19th.
the 19th, yes.
Okay.
On that topic, I'm not sure yet, but I'm going to be traveling to and from Toronto that week, so I'm not sure yet, but might be tight.
Okay, so you're a maybe, Joe's a no. I should be a yes, but I know I'll be a yes. I shouldn't say should have. I will be a yes, God willing. But and hopefully Patty's back.
I'm a yes.
Okay, thank you.
Count
Jim.
me in. Count me in.
Okay, so we should have a quorum.
Good.
But I appreciate you bringing it up. Thank you, Joe.
Okay.
Now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Roll call vote. I forgot. Joe,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes,
Nat,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. That passes unanimously. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Take
Very
care.
well.